Battle of Kyiv was, at least in my opinion, was one of the most significant, if not the most significant event in modern history. This never was supposed to be a war that we have for more than two years, a full-scale war. It was supposed to be a special military operation, thus they call it.
This is Illia Ponomarenko, a journalist and the author of I Will Show You How It Was, the Story of Wartime Kyiv. As a defense reporter for the Kyiv Independent in spring 2022, he provided in-depth coverage of the Battle of Kyiv. His new book offers a first-hand account of his experiences during the battle and his profound love for the city.
I moved to Kyiv like seven years ago, and I had basically nothing but my backpack and $100 in my pocket. I only had my first job as a reporter in Kyiv in a minor media outlet. The city was always good to me. It's not simply about the city or capital of the country, it's about your home that gave you so much.
Illia was in Kyiv when the invasion began. After securing his family's safety in western Ukraine, he returned to the embattled capital, choosing his journalistic responsibilities over personal safety, much like many others who remained in Kyiv to support the city during its time of need.
There was a feeling of duty that we are journalists. We are supposed to be with our city, we're supposed to be with our country. When I came to Kyiv in the last days of February 2022, during the very heat of the battle, Kyiv was very different. It essentially lost its vibrant soul. It turned into something that is close to being a ghost city. It was about sandbags, concrete blocks, anti-tank headshots, just here in the middle of Kyiv, in the very heart of this city. And it was preparing for a long battle. I saw a lot of energy and a lot of resilience, and I wrote on my Twitter page that Putin will never make it. They will never get this city. The Russians, one of the most essential missions in capturing Kyiv was to cross the Irpin River, which runs west of Kyiv. It's an old and pretty small river, but still it surprisingly became in many ways a protective wall, because Ukrainian military used this barrier to deny Russians a chance to move in. Essentially, the Battle of Kyiv was resolved not only within the city, but mostly in its suburbs, satellite cities like Bucha, Borodanka, Irpin, Astomin.
Russians were moving fast from the northern occupied towns and cities of Kyiv Oblast. Chernihiv and Sumy keep holding on, I say, but the Russians are trying not to get bogged down in fighting. They are bypassing large cities and their defenses and moving deeper along our major highways, toward the eastern part of Kyiv, I suppose. In just a few days, Russian forces got within roughly 20 kilometers or 12 miles of central Kyiv, and the city's suburbs took the hardest hit during the early stages of the invasion. On February 25th, Ukraine blew up a dam and 3 bridges, turning the Irpin River into a nearly insurmountable obstacle. Russia's advance from Kyiv's northwestern flank was stopped, although fierce fighting continued for over 2 weeks.
Ukrainians managed to deal with this breakthrough of Russians in the town of Moshchun, and this became a place where Ukrainians prevailed, and Russians wasted their only remaining chance to break into Kyiv. With the Russian failure to take the city, the capital of Kyiv, and with their failure to install their own government here in Kyiv, the entire so-called special military operation was essentially derailed.
Next, we went to Bucha, a satellite town that shocked the world with gruesome images and the number of civilians killed by Russian forces in just 33 days of its occupation.
So it's Bucha. It's the most terrible place and the most sacred place of Bucha, I would say. The famous church and the mass grave that was here.
After Ukraine liberated Kyiv Oblast, the world saw the destruction and death Russian occupation truly means. Mass graves containing hundreds of bodies were discovered, numerous civilian cars and buildings bore bullet holes, and entire streets were scorched.
It's been 2 years, and this entire area is absolutely rebuilt, and it's this broken bridge that became one of the symbols of this war. My motivation to write this book was that instead of like fancy military history book with lots of military terms, lots of maps and arrows that I initially wanted, I decided to just tell what was in my heart, what was in my brain. It was what inspired me, what absolutely touched on me. So I just simply decided to tell the story because it was so worthwhile given the circumstances, given the uniqueness of this situation, historical situation that we had. Knowing what Bucha is about 2 years later, knowing how great life is, knowing how many people actually want to move in here and live here. So many things that were destroyed during the Russian occupation get rebuilt and built back better. And this is one of the things that made the Battle of Kyiv so symbolic and so morally telling, and particularly the story of Bucha. Something that I really got from those days is that life always wins. The life always prevails over the dark.